Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty exciting in generative AI, specifically how we can get better videos, without that constant, super expensive retraining cycle.
That's right. We're talking about test time scaling, or TTS. It's worked wonders for large language models, right?
It really has. But the big question is, can that same magic work for video? Video generation is, well, notoriously compute heavy during training.
And that's exactly what today's paper tackles. It's called Video-T1, test time scaling for video generation.
Video-T1.
Okay. Yeah, and the core idea is actually quite neat. Instead of just spitting out one video, they treat generation more like a search. You're searching for the best possible video sequence that matches your prompt.
A search. Okay, I like that framing. How does it work in practice?
So the Video-T1 framework uses two main things. First, test time verifiers. Think of them as little AI judges that score how good a generated video snippet is and how well it fits the prompt.
Okay, judges.
And second, heuristic algorithms. They use the scores from those judges to, well, cleverly explore different video possibilities and find better ones. They focus on two main algorithms: random linear search and something called tree of frames search, or TOF.
TOF, got it. And the point is to improve quality at inference time.
Exactly. Improve quality, improve prompt adherence, all by using more compute during inference, not training. And their experiments show it works really well across different models and verifiers. So our mission today is basically to unpack how this Video-T1 works and what it might mean for video generation going forward.
Great. So key idea, better video at inference via search, potentially letting smaller models punch above their weight. Okay, let's rewind a bit. Why do we even need this? I mean, generative models, video included, have gotten amazing thanks to scaling, right? More data, bigger models?
Totally. Scaling laws have been the name of the game. Bigger models, more data, more compute during training generally equals better results. We've seen incredible progress.
But there's always a but.
There's always a but. And here, it's the cost. Training these state-of-the-art video models is just eye-wateringly expensive. The computational resources needed are massive.
Right. It becomes unsustainable to just keep throwing more GPUs at the training problem indefinitely. You hit a wall, or at least very diminishing returns.
Precisely. It's getting harder and harder to justify the cost for each incremental improvement you get from just scaling up training further.
So that's where test time scaling comes in, borrowing that idea from LLMs instead of pouring everything into training.
You invest more compute at inference time when you're actually generating the video. The paper essentially asks, can we get better results by being smarter and using more compute when we ask the model to create something?
Okay, so Video-T1 is the framework to do that. And you said it reframes generation as a search.
Exactly. It's searching within this huge space of potential videos that the underlying model could generate. The extra test time compute fuels this search process.
All right, so how do you guide the search? You mentioned verifiers, these AI judges.
Right. The test time verifiers, or V, they're crucial. They are basically functions, often pre-trained models themselves, that take a generated video and the text prompt and output a score.
A single number.
Yep, a single scalar score. The paper notes it like V maps from the video space and the prompt condition to a real number, R. So VR, HRAACR.
Height, width, color, time. And C's is the prompt.
Yeah.
Got it. And the score reflects.
Both quality and alignment. Like, is the video sharp? Does it look good? And crucially, does it actually show what the prompt asked for? Temporal consistency, how smooth the motion is, all that can factor in.
So you need good judges. What kind of models did they use as verifiers?
They experimented with a few different ones, things like VBench, Videollama 3, Vision Reward, Video Score. It shows the framework is flexible. You can plug in different verifiers.
Okay, so we have ways to score potential videos. How do we then find the better videos using those scores? You mentioned search algorithms.
Yes, the heuristic search algorithms, F. These methods take the original generator model, G, the verifier, a bunch of starting points, usually random noise samples, N of them, and the prompt, and they use the verifier's feedback to guide the generation towards a better final video.
Right, the random noise. That's the starting point for diffusion models, isn't it? Like a blank, noisy canvas.
Exactly. You start with different noise patterns, and the model denoises them over time, guided by the prompt, to create the video. Using N different starting noise patterns gives you N potential starting points for the search.
Okay, so multiple starting points. Let's talk about the first search method. Random linear search. Sounds simple.
It is, yeah. It's kind of the baseline approach. You just generate N completely separate videos. Each one starts from a different noise sample, runs through the whole generation process for T frames. And then you use your verifier to score all incompleted videos. Whichever one gets the highest score, that's the one you pick. Simple as that.
So just generate a bunch and pick the best, like best of n sampling. The paper called it a forest of degenerate trees.
Yeah, kind of a funny term, because each generation is just a straight line, start noise, generate frames, end video. No branching, no exploring alternatives during the process, so each one is like a single, simple tree with no branches, a degenerate tree. And you have a collection, a forest, of these independent lines.
Gotcha. And the cost, they mention OTN.
Right, T times N. If you generate N videos, each T frames long, the cost scales pretty much linearly with both N and T. Double the videos you sample, double the cost. Double the length, double the cost. Makes sense.
Simple, but potentially expensive if you need a large N or long videos. Okay, what about the more advanced one? Tree of frames, 2.
Right, TOOF. This is where it gets more interesting and potentially more efficient. It also starts with N initial noise samples, like N roots of trees in a forest. But the key difference is branching.
Branching. So during generation, it explores multiple options.
Exactly. At certain points in the generation process, instead of just generating the single next frame, the algorithm generates multiple potential next frames. These are the child nodes branching off from the parent frame node.
Okay, so you get this tree structure growing over time. But doesn't that explode computationally?
It could, but that's where the heuristic pruning comes in. You use the verifier to score these intermediate branches, these potential next frames or short sequences.
Ah, using the judge mid-process.
Precisely. Based on the verifier's score, a heuristic score in this context, you prune or discard the branches that look less promising, the ones unlikely to lead to a good final video. So you focus your compute on exploring the paths that seem better.
That sounds much smarter, like a guided search rather than just blind generation. The paper mentions branching happens at specific prompt stages. What's that about?
It's about stability, mainly. Instead of branching constantly, which could make the video jerky, they might branch at points corresponding to, say, a change in action described in the prompt. Maybe the prompt says, a cat walks across the room, then jumps onto a chair.
Okay.
You might keep the initial walking part relatively stable, then branch more heavily around the jump part, exploring different ways the cat could jump, guided by the verifier. Using prompts relevant to that stage of the video helps guide this.
I see. So targeted exploration at key moments. And the complexity for tough. Is it better than OTN?
It can be, yes. In theory, the worst case could still be bad if you branch wildly. But in practice, if you control the branching factor and prune effectively, the paper argues the complexity can approach something more like ON plus T.
N plus T, that's way better.
Much better, yeah. The N is for starting the N trees, and the T roughly represents the cost of extending the best branches to the full length. You avoid generating N full videos, which is the big saving compared to random linear search.
Definitely more scalable. Now, you also mentioned using multi-verifiers. Why not just stick with one good judge?
Well, the idea is that different verifiers might be good at different things, right? One might be great at spotting realistic physics, another might be better at judging aesthetic quality or checking fine-grained details from the prompt.
Like having specialists.
Kind of. By using a mixture of verifiers and combining their scores, you hope to get a more balanced, robust evaluation. You mitigate the potential blind spots or biases of any single verifier. It increases the chances that the video selected as best really is good across multiple dimensions.
Makes sense. Get a consensus from multiple experts. The paper also touches on some finer implementation details, like image-level alignment and hierarchical prompting. Quick rundown.
Sure. Image-level TTS is basically applying a similar verifier-guided selection within the generation of each individual frame, like a mini search happening even before the frame is fully formed, pruning bad directions early.
Wow, okay. And hierarchical prompting.
That involves using an LLM, like DeepSeek, to break down the main prompt into subprompts, like one for the static background, one for the main action, one for maybe the intended ending state. These subprompts can then be used by the verifiers to check specific aspects of the video at different stages. It helps ensure the whole video flows logically according to the overall narrative.
So refining quality at the frame level and ensuring the story holds together using more specific prompt guidance.
Cool. Okay, let's get to the payoff. The results. Did it actually work well?
Oh yeah, the results look pretty strong. Quantitatively, they show consistent improvements using TTS, both random, linear, and especially TOF, across different base video models like CogVideoX, OpenSora, NoVA, Pyramid Flow. The VBench scores generally go up, often across multiple metrics like overall quality, aesthetics, prompt alignment.
And visually. The examples.
The visual examples are quite telling. You can really see the difference. For instance, with prompts like a panda playing on a swing set or yellow flowers swing in the wind, increasing the TTS samples, the NFE, number of function evaluations, basically compute effort, leads to visibly better detail, textures, and much smoother, more plausible motion.
Nice. What about more complex stuff? People, robots?
Yeah, things like a person is riding a bike or a robot dancing in Times Square. The TTS versions often handle the movement much more realistically. Or a corgi is playing drum kit. The action becomes clearer, the interaction more believable. Corgi playing drums, gotta see that.
Right. It also helps with object interactions and spatial stuff, like a vase and scissors, or a happy fuzzy panda playing guitar nearby a campfire. The scenes become more coherent. And especially for prompts explicitly about spatial relations, like a bowl on the left of a bottle, they show TTS really helps the model get those relationships right, which can be tricky.
So clear visual improvements across the board, from simple motion to complex scenes and spatial understanding. That's impressive. What about that comparison to larger models?
Yeah, figure 7. That was interesting. They took a smaller 2 billion parameter model, pyramid flow, added TTS, and compared it to a much beefier 13 billion parameter model, Heuristic Video, running normally.
Does the little guy keep up?
In several aspects, yes. The results suggested the smaller model with TTS could match or sometimes even outperform the larger model without TTS, which is huge, right?
That really is. It implies maybe we don't always need gigantic models if we have smarter inference techniques.
Exactly. It suggests a path towards high quality with potentially more manageable base model sizes.
But it's not a silver bullet, right?
Yeah.
The paper mentioned limitations, failure cases.
No, definitely not magic. Figure 8 shows examples where TTS doesn't help much. Often it's when the base model itself just fundamentally lacks the capability to generate something accurately.
Like what?
The example they give is like really complex and detailed hand movements. If the model just wasn't trained well enough to understand or render hands properly, searching harder at test time won't suddenly teach it how to do hands.
So TTS helps you find the best output within the model's inherent knowledge and capabilities.
Precisely. It optimizes the output based on what the model can do, but it can't add new fundamental abilities that weren't learned during training.
That's a very important distinction. Okay, great discussion. Let's try and wrap up. What are the main takeaways from this Video-T1 paper for, the researchers and engineers listening?
I'd say 3 main things. 1, Video-T1 presents this really solid framework for boosting video generation using test time scaling. 2, reframing generation as a search using verifiers and smart algorithms like TOF works. It demonstrably improves quality and prompt following without retraining. 3, this hints at a really interesting future where inference time compute and clever algorithms can help smaller models achieve results closer to, or maybe even beyond, much larger ones, which has big implications for efficiency and accessibility.
Yeah, that efficiency angle is really compelling. Less reliance on just massive training runs. Okay, final thought for everyone mulling this over. If test time scaling works this well for video, where else could it be applied? Could this search-based approach become a standard layer on top of generative models across different domains? And looking ahead for video, what's next? How can we make these search strategies even smarter, faster, maybe integrate them even more tightly with the generation process itself, especially for longer, more complex videos? Lots to think about there. Definitely food for thought. Thanks for breaking that down for us.
My pleasure. It's exciting stuff.
It really is. All right, thanks everyone for tuning into this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.